what I really like is, I mean, a lot of people from all premier colleges have done that, but the way I think the ecosystem is translating into itself, right? Percolating down to even first, second year, right? Thinking about it. It's
True, true.
beautiful to see. Yeah.
I think we'll wait for another 2 minutes.
No
People
worries.
will be joining in.
No rush. No rush. It's fine.
Okay, I think we're good to go.
All right.
So, a very good evening to one and all present here. On behalf of BITS Embryo, I would like to welcome you all to today's talk, Building Organizations That Maximize Human Potential with Mr. Saurabh Saxena. To briefly introduce the speaker in his own words, founder, educator, lifelong learner. The world is changing fast, and it has been decades since education has remained stuck in a framework that ignores the uniqueness of every human being. Every student is born curious, creative, and a problem solver, but they're pushed into a standard pathway. This has been Mr. Saurabh Saxena's journey to founding UABLE, through which he aims to solve this problem and build an ecosystem where each learner can discover, explore, and work towards their passion. In a world where everyone is made for more, UABLE embodies this very belief and strives to make teenage years amazing, maximizing the potential of teens. I would now like to invite Mr. Saurabh to take over.
Hi, Sachika. Thanks a lot. I was just thinking, where did you pick up my introduction from? I think it was LinkedIn. Yes. All right. Thanks a lot, Sachika. Great to be here. Thanks a lot for inviting me. I've been excited about this talk. Well, I've been to colleges before, but yeah, BITS is special because I've heard a lot about the entrepreneurial spirit that is flourishing right now through the campus, through the culture of BITS. So great to be here. And hi everyone. So guys, I think I'll keep it very simple rather than keeping it as a one way gyan session. I would love to open it up for dialogue as well. I think first 15-20 minutes, I'll just take you through my journey quickly. Some of the key questions. There are so many things that we can discuss, of course, but because I wanted to really be in the periphery of the topic around human potential, which itself is a wide topic. We can just go on for hours and hours. But I have some critical questions that I'll keep putting on the slide, share my views on it. Then within 20 minutes, I'll open the house and we'll have a dialogue around it. I know so many of you are thinking about what to do in life, how to maximize your own potential, how to build startups. Have you chosen the right field? Should you pursue engineering? Should you really go the entrepreneurship route? There might be so many questions that you all might have about entrepreneurship, about your own life, about discovering your own ikigai, about converting your passion into your profession, and would love to have an open dialogue and take queries as much as I can, because last 15 years for sure I have spent a lot of time in this field. So yeah, I think we'll get started. Uh, my journey, I think every journey is of self-discovery. My journey is no less. So it has been an experimentation. I consider after 15, 16 years of being an entrepreneur, I really, whenever I look back, I consider my life, my own life, being an experiment on my own self, with my own beliefs, with my own prophecies and philosophies. So it's a journey of self-discovery through experimentation. One experimentation led to another, and while I never wanted to really become a serial entrepreneur, but that is what happened, because my own thought process kept on evolving. My goalposts, the mission itself kept on changing. So one organization to the other, but I was very clear that when I got into IIT, that I was never satisfied with my education system. Definitely not. I don't know how is it with you guys. How many of you are really happy about the education that we have received? While there are good parts to it, but fundamentally, one size fits all system has done more harm to the world than good. And for years, for decades, people have talked about it. I always wanted to do something about it and make whatever impact I can in my years. So right after, and of course, I went to an engineering college like all of you, but never really wanted to pursue engineering. I loved engineering. I mean, I learned a lot over the 4 years, especially on first principles thinking, problem solving. Engineering is a fascinating field. Learn more from the peers, from the ecosystem rather than the academics, but love being there. Did a job in core chemical engineering for a few months, but I was very clear that I want to start up my own venture. When I was, and this is way back in 2005, when the startup ecosystem was not even existent in our country. Rather in up to 2005, I didn't even know, I think, the term startup. I used to tell people that I will start my own business. So that is how naive we were in 2005. Yeah, I started my first venture in North India, which went by the name of Laksh. I think getting into education for someone like me with my friends who didn't have any money, any capital, no support from parents. Rather, my father didn't talk to me for 6 months when I decided to start up. Today's startup has become so mainstream that for parents also it is becoming far more acceptable if their kids become startup founders, etc. But back in our time, it wasn't. My father really wanted me to go to Harvard, Stanford, do my management, and do an awesome job in some consulting firm, etc., which was never my cup of tea. But still, started my first venture in 2006. It was a chain of learning centers in North India, as part of which I would have taught more than 40-50,000 teenagers myself in a classroom setup. Expanded it to 5 locations. Would have trained 200 plus teachers. Built a lot of systems, processes. Thought a lot about human potential right from the day one when we started Laksh. While the main objective of starting the organization was, yes, we were accountable to our users, our students, to enhance their performance in examinations, get them good ranks in all entrance examinations, Olympiads, NTSE, and whatnot. But we always had a very different lens to look at our success, and that lens was, while yes, 0.51% of our kids will really go through the exams, do well, but what about the 99% who really don't do that well? How can they get an experience that helps them maximize their potential? That was always my thought. In 2010, after starting up Laksh, I wanted to start my own chain of schools, my own thought process of how education should be, how real world learning, real world projects need to integrate with our education system. My thought process had started building up, but was still very, very nascent. So 2010, instead of starting my own chain of schools, I had a concept of lab school in my mind. But we founders were discussing the idea of Vedantu, which was whatever we had done in Laksh, how can we do it in an online setup? And that sounded exciting to me. I mean, while I wasn't a techie from my engineering degree, but tech was always at the back of our mind. We had done a lot of tech implementations in our classroom setup to make learning more fascinating, more personalized, more deeper outcomes, so as to say. So for Vedantu presented an opportunity that was truly exciting. How can we use technology at that point of time and imagine a future where all classrooms will become online? And trust me, when we launched our first product in 2014, nobody believed us that learning will happen online one day. And look what COVID did, really. Online learning was the only survival. While I still don't say all learning should happen online, but definitely a lot of it will happen online in coming years. So from Laksh to Vedantu, started Vedantu in 2011, sold my first company Laksh in 2012 to a public listed entity in Mumbai. For 2 years, served on their board. 2014, I exited that company, my first company, The Deal. And then we launched Vedantu's first product as a personalized one-on-one tutoring platform. It was the very first in India. From 2014 till 2018, for almost 5 years, I built out Vedantu from one-on-one tutoring to one-to-few to one-to-many classes. So whatever we had done in Laksh, using tech, we got everything online. By the time I exited Vedantu, we would have touched 1 million plus learners through our platform. We had a patent file for our for the platform that teachers use to teach kids online. I would have trained more than 2,000 plus teachers to become online educators and build the entire community. So it's a lot of experiences. I mean, right from being a teacher in 2006 to building out Vedantu at scale, scaling to 40 plus countries and 1 million plus learners was outstanding, was amazing. Full of failures, as any journey is, full of experiments, but full of some great moments and milestones as well. Now, after doing 13 years in conventional education, and especially after becoming a parent myself in 2014, I asked myself a simple question after knowing so much about education, interacting with people globally around future of learning, future of schooling, especially K-12. That has been my area of focus throughout. I realized that somebody has to pick it up. Somebody has to really build a startup that nobody is building right now to challenge the current schooling system, challenge the education system, and build a parallel ecosystem. That was inspiration enough. In 2017, I told my co-founders that I would love to move on because I didn't want to invest next 15 years of my life to a conventional education setup, which was great, which was pure at its heart, but is still propagating the same exam marks rank kind of a great system that I had lost belief in. And that is how I came out of Vedantu, took a break for about a year and started Uable. So that has been my journey, and it has been exciting. It has been full of mistakes, but great learnings and some milestones, as I said. I think 3 questions that I ask myself whenever I reflect, and I'm sure for many of you, these questions might come up in some form or the other in coming years. Why did I leave a conventional education segment and took a tougher path? I mean, the business was there, we were doing great, it was growing, it was a hot startup in the ecosystem. Why would I leave it and take a tougher path of building Uable? I think the answer was very clear. I asked myself that, do I want my daughter to be a part of this ecosystem that I'm building at that point of time? And the answer was no. I didn't believe in the standard schooling system. I don't believe in the coaching industry, ranks, marks, grades. I think every child is curious, super unique. Over the years, education system kills a lot of our creativity and curiosity and makes us all start looking alike, which is not fair to human potential. Many of us still do well, but that is not because of the education system, but despite of it. What's my truth? I don't know how many of you have read Peter Thiel's book 0 to 1. He asks all entrepreneurs who are trying to build category leading companies one simple question, one thing that I feel is true, but many people get it wrong. I think my truth is that a revolution in education system is due, and that revolution, many people think that it will come by reforming schools. I completely disagree. The revolutions don't come from inside. Revolutions generally come from outside. And that's why I believe a parallel ecosystem will challenge the education system in coming years rather than just reform of schools at scale, which people have been trying for decades. But there has been impact. There have been some islands of excellence, some great schools being built, some movement in the curriculum as well. But the kind of impact that we could have brought in hasn't really happened. What's my mission? Of course, to challenge the education system. I'm building a company for many years now. How can I build that parallel ecosystem that maximizes every teenager's and very soon every kid's potential, helps them discover their passions, build skills, and convert those passions into their ikigai. That is what my personal mission is. So where is society headed? I mean, we are talking about human potential, so it's very important to understand where is the society headed. If more and more people follow the herd, which many people are still doing, and I hope the group that I'm addressing today, all of you don't belong to that segment. You're trying to really figure out your own pathways, build startups, or get into deep research, build great products, get into engineering, go to core work, and follow the path of innovation. But most of the people are still following the herd just for external validation. And what is that leading to? That is leading to more materialism, more consumerism, more insecurities, more depression, more complex ways of living, and not making our lives any simpler. And that is what we keep on seeking. So many books that we read these days, it's about simplicity, minimalism, and not really getting distracted by the social media, etc., etc. We all know that jazz. Because society is headed there, I feel maximizing human potential is, according to me, is the only purpose that makes sense in an otherwise meaningless life. So many philosophers, right from Plato, Aristotle, Naval Ravikant of our age, to Krishnamurti of yesteryears, have asked this question: what is the meaning of life? What is the purpose of life? So many of us wonder about it. We discuss with friends over dialogues. I feel it's a cosmic accident that we are here, but because we are here, I mean, maximizing human potential is something over the years, after all the dialogues, after all the work that I've been able to do, after all the learning that I have been able to derive, I feel maximizing human potential is the only purpose that has made sense to me. Be it starts with me maximizing my own potential and then helping others, facilitating their own process of maximizing their own potential is the purpose that really makes sense to me. So I believe in organizations that focus on this in any which way. I'm not saying that only getting into education or building tech companies is the only way to maximize human potential. Not at all. Human potential exists at so many levels that we need hundreds of organizations. There are many organizations that are already doing phenomenal work that maximizes human potential. Wherever a human is, I think we owe it to the race, we owe it to everyone around and to ourselves most of all, that we maximize our potential, figure out our own beautiful expression in this world, and make the world a better place to live in. I think that's how I look at the purpose of life and work as well. How entrepreneurs have the opportunity and hence the responsibility to enable this purpose. Insane. This is an immense opportunity in today's world, using technology, the kind of funding that is available, the way ecosystems have grown right from the valley to ecosystems like India and Bangalore, Pune, Delhi, Mumbai, etc. The kind of awareness we all have today as young entrepreneurs, as entrepreneurial minds. And when I'm saying entrepreneurs, that doesn't mean a person who has to start up their own business. For me, entrepreneur is a person who has that entrepreneurial bent of mind of problem solving, independent thinking, leadership, innovation, the words that we so often really map out with entrepreneurship. the opportunity is immense. And my recommendation to young entrepreneurs who are starting out is always, rather than chasing short-term money, short-term success. I know money is important. I know success is important. I know those validations are very, very important to young minds as well. And there should be no issues with that. But if we all can figure out how can we find our own purpose, and in finding that purpose, if we can touch lives and maximize their potential in some way, make lives better, I think that is what entrepreneurship is all about. And it is absolutely linked to the purpose that I just talked about, maximizing human potential. Now, Japanese are great at one thing. They are great at really understanding human mind, understanding processes, output, etc., and giving frameworks in terms to things that we just discuss in lengthy statements. And our Japanese friends gave a beautiful term to the concept of maximizing human potential, and that term is ikigai. I'm sure many of you would have read the book as well. This term is gaining more and more traction over the last few years, and it's just beautiful to see, because it's a beautiful term truly. Ikigai is that sweet spot, right, where we find something that we love doing, something that we are good at, we have skills to do it well, something that the world needs, and something that we can be paid for. That's the sweet spot where passion, mission, profession, and vocation come together and give us our ikigai. And while I've been on a 15-year journey to discover my own ikigai, can I say I have discovered it? I'm quite close, yeah. I'm pretty happy with I am where I am in life, and this is what I always wanted to do. But can we help other people to discover their ikigai sooner in life so that they can utilize more years of their living enjoying what they do? It could be small, big, that doesn't matter. Somebody running a restaurant who really enjoys making great food also has discovered ikigai. It's not just people who do entrepreneurship, startup, become politicians, leaders, only they discover ikigai. Ikigai exists at every stage of our society, really. Why do we need high value ecosystems that help ikigai, human potential thrive? I think the problem here, guys, is what I've realized is the problem is with the masses. When you look at masses have a tendency that we call inertia, right? I mean, in physics, we all have learned about that concept, that what is inertia? Inertia is the tendency of something to not change, right? That is inertia. And masses have that tendency. So masses, and that's why bringing a change to the masses is really a hard task for anybody, because masses have gathered a mass by default, and there's a lot of inertia there. That's why I'm not a believer of creating products that scale super fast to the masses. Those products take the shape of what masses they want those products to become, like social media of today, and the impact over the few years really diminishes, and they don't change. They don't bring about the kind of change they could have. So I'd absolutely believe the future belongs to high value ecosystems. For example, BITS today is a high value ecosystem, right? You people are a campus, alumni network, and interactions happen, and you guys are prospering. But for that to happen at an India level, it will take decades. So I believe that there'll be a lot of high value ecosystems that will be built over the next few years, global, national, etc., local, that will help thrive human potential forward, be it through organizations, social impact, or the edtech platform that I'm building at Uable right now. It could be anything. How have we embraced the concept of ikigai for our users? I mean, of course, many of you might ask, how are you really embedding everything that you are saying? Are you walking the talk? You are saying purpose of life, maximizing human potential, ikigai. How am I applying all these concepts like first principles thinking, 0 to 1, etc., to the startup that I'm building right now? I think from mission to product to culture, everything in Uable really reflects the term ikigai and human potential. I won't go into what our product is. I'm not here to market our product to you guys, but I just wanted to show you the logo of a new premium community that we are launching next week. And if you see this logo, the background of this logo itself is 4 circles of ikigai, and the center of the logo comes out playing around with that concept of ikigai as the sweet spot. And the product is called Power Club, where we are building a global ecosystem of teenagers, kids, unconventional families to come together, engage in real world projects, real world challenges with industry experts, build their portfolio of work. Be it any passion or aspiration, they can pursue it. They can do exciting work, build a portfolio of work, and find their ikigai over the years. So that is what Power Club is all about, and that is how the concept of ikigai and human potential comes out right from our logo to our mission statement to our product. All right, so once the purpose is clear that we have to maximize human potential, there's no question why we should not be maximizing human potential. That's the core purpose of living. Uh, Once you guys get started up, I mean, whether it's starting up your own venture or your own journey as an engineer, as a techie, as a management consultant, whatever path you guys choose to take in future, 0 to 1 is the toughest phase of creation of your own journey, especially in startups, because that's a time when you're imagining something new in this world that does not exist. And everybody challenges you, everybody questions you. So 0 to 1 is the hardest phase of creation. If you're just copy pasting an existing concept, maybe not so much, but then a lot of external competition will sit on your head and there will be different challenges there. But if you're building something new, imagining something new, finding your own expression for the world, 0 to 1 is one of the toughest phases of creation. For me, it's one of the most enjoyable because it's really a no man's land. Nobody has been there before, and we get to experiment a lot, try new things, be absolutely adventurous, and learn super fast. And for anybody who's interested in this concept, I'm sure many of you would have already read it, but Peter Thiel's book 0 to 1 is a must read for any entrepreneur at any stage. I've read it 3 times at 3 different stages of my entrepreneurial journey, and it has only given me better and better insights into the concept. I'm sure you would have heard Elon Musk's famous principles. Why first principle thinking matter? I think why am I saying 0 to 1 first principles? To build an organization that maximizes human potential, be it for the users, be it for the team members, be it for the all stakeholders involved. First principles thinking truly matters, because again, to break the mold, to bring about a change, you cannot do what people have been doing for many years. You have to think anew, and to think anew, you need to have first principles. You need to break down a problem into its basic building blocks, like atomic division, right? And then try to understand it and build a product forward. So first principles thinking is absolutely a must-have mental model today for any person who is starting anew on any journey. Yeah, I mean, before I open this session for open dialogue and questions, I think when I was invited to this conversation, I was thinking about my own college days at IIT, how fascinated I was with the idea of starting my own business, earning money, lots of it. I was always like, yeah, I'll earn as much money get to a financial stage of financial freedom so that I can do whatever I want to do in life without really worrying about the big bucks. But of course, I realized over time that money is not the only thing that matters. It's a very important resource to live a good life, to build great companies, do great work, very important resource. But that's not the only thing that matters. I've loved how campuses have changed, how our thought process in India is changing, and how students are thinking about reforming the world. So many startups, so many great ideas coming from campuses. And all of you can contribute by becoming a great engineer, great entrepreneur, by collaborating with companies today. I'd love to invite you guys to really collaborate with us. If you want to work with us as interns, get apprenticeships, take up projects, build products, anything. Students have tremendous power. I have been a firm believer in the insane potential that is with teenagers, with Gen Z in general, and you guys can do some great work. Don't get biased by the world. Figure out your own expression, figure out your own way. Whether the world questions it or not, it shouldn't matter to you. All right. So that's it from my side, and I would love to really hear from you guys. What questions do you have? How can I contribute to anything? And any feedback, any thoughts around human potential, ikigai, any thoughts around my own startup journey, whatever you guys want to ask, go ahead.
I think before we open the floor to the audience, I have like a few questions ready, if you're ready to take them up. I think we'll start off with this, your edtech journey, 3 startup ventures in the same field of edtech. So now how is each one different from the other, and the learnings from each one? And also, like you mentioned, in 2005, no one really heard of startups, and you were like amongst the first few to venture in the space. So looking back, how important do you think it was for you to take the leap?
It was, Sachika, I think taking the leap was super important because or else I would have regretted it forever. For me, it was very important to pursue my own path, pursue my own beliefs. I told you guys it was super challenging. Today, because of so much advent in the startup ecosystem, shows like Shark Tank and all, everybody knows Even second, third tier town, people know that what are startups, what entrepreneurship is all about. In 2005, my dad hadn't heard the term entrepreneurship. For me also, it was a new term. I mean, you guys won't be able to relate with the kind of conversations that used to happen in my family. It was a progressive family. My dad is a retired IFS officer. We were all open to adventures in life. But when I told him that I want to start up for 6 months, no conversation. Simple as that. I mean, it wasn't easy, but still taking that leap was super important for me because last 15 years, and again building on your question, Sachika, that how one journey has been different from the other. Every journey has taught me something, has brought about a change in my own mindset, and I felt after giving 7, 8, 9 years to one journey, sometimes bringing about a new change from within that journey becomes difficult. So that's why I've taken the route of starting up anew and becoming a serial entrepreneur, because the journeys weren't the same. Laksh was a chain of learning centers that was committed to generating IIT JEE ranks. Vedantu was a tech company that was committed to taking the best teachers to every household. That's the mission we started Vedantu with. And Uable's mission is absolutely different. I mean, it has evolved, yes, from starting a coaching institution to building a edtech venture that scaled to millions, to starting Uable that is challenging the education system at its core by building a parallel ecosystem to maximize human potential. I think you'll see those dots getting connected. That how from being a teacher to building a tech venture and understanding education much deeper over 13 years, I figured out that there are frameworks, there are communities of practice that are needed. There's life coaching that is needed for students and teenagers, rather than just teachers and content telling them what to do, what to follow, how to get more marks every day. I think teenagers are super capable, and all they need is an ecosystem to thrive, that believes in them, that has their back all the time. Great coaches and mentors to really believe in them. If a 13-year-old wants to become an entrepreneur, he or she should. If a 15-year-old thinks about pursuing her passion in art or design or NFTs or gaming, she should. I mean, nothing should stop them. And age definitely not, system for sure not. So that is how my own journey has evolved over time. Sachika, to your question, and that's why three startups. I hated the term of being a serial entrepreneur, but I don't mind it. I mean, if starting afresh, starting anew, gives a better expression to my perspective, I have been open to that.
Right. It's more like how each startup taught you something new and you built on that further.
Yeah.
Moving on to like again, you mentioned getting from 0 to 1 is the most important. Also, to you, your favorite phase. So, for someone who's starting their own startup or is doing something extremely new, your basic tips for like getting through that phase.
First thing, I think the most important concept that 0 to 1 framework also covers is discover your own truth first. I mean, ask as many questions as you can to yourself. Why do you want to start up? Right now, I'm answering this very, very specifically, but this can apply to any other life decision as well. Why do we want to do it? Why? I think start with why has been the most important thing for me. The biggest learning that I keep asking why. A lot of times, my team sometimes gets irritated with me because I ask so many questions to myself, to them. Why do we want to do this? And till the time we get a very clear answer to why do we want to start up, clear answers. Is it for earning money? Is it for impact? Is it to solve a problem that we relate with? Is it to really change the world? Is it to maximize human potential? Why? Or just to have fun, just to not do a job? There can be so many reasons to start up, right? I think answering that why very, very strongly is something that people should start with. And those whys also keep on changing, Sachika, to your question. I mean, today you can start up, then 6 months you might struggle, build a product, realize that there was a large thesis with which you started your product with, but nobody really wants to use your product, right? Then you pivot. So start with a why, and then be open to pivoting in your journey. Change as you go, because no entrepreneur on day one really knows that this idea is going to work. Everybody thinks entrepreneurs by default are the most delusional people on earth. They believe that they'll rock, they are the best, and they should. I mean, that's the core strength of being an entrepreneur, that bold courage. But that also leads you into a delusionary battle, and sometimes products fail, businesses don't work. So entrepreneurship is more about failures. I think starting with a why, be open to iterations, and be absolutely open to embracing failure, because in entrepreneurship there will be more failures than successes, guaranteed. For anyone, pick up any journey in this world, and you'll see more failures than successes when you tear the facade down.
Right. So How do you say you launched, you figured out why, you figured out exactly how you should go about the entire thing? How do you get to your first user base, like say your first 100 users, and how do you actually understand what they want, what they need, and improve them, improve your products and services accordingly?
Yeah, great question. I think, see, any product or service, any business, Sachika and everyone, it starts with a core thesis that we arrive at a problem. We say we want to solve this problem. Okay, is this problem worth solving? Who faces this problem? That person becomes our user, right? Now, if you have to build a large startup, a large business, which is profitable, etc., then you have to pick up a problem that is faced by a large number of people. But still, to build a great product, my suggestion will always be basis my own learnings is always start small. Always pick up a niche. Don't pick up a problem for millions of users on day one, because then many other companies will be solving that problem and you'll get lost also in the crowd. Try to pick up a niche, solve a problem for that niche, and identifying niche is easier. So if you're solving, say, a problem for women leaders in corporates, for example, if that is the use case, or for example, if I'm solving a problem for ambitious teenagers in this world right now, then I know where to find these people, right? Ambitious teenagers will be in, say, top schools or homeschoolers or alternative schools in cities like Bangalore, Pune, Delhi. So identifying the users in these clusters will be easier. Then you take your solution to these users. I'm always against to take a lot of user feedback early on, because users will tell you something, and when you build a product basis that the way they use your product will be something absolutely different. So user research is also, sometimes I've seen young entrepreneurs get into a lot of user research, talking to users a lot early on, which is great. But a counterintuitive point is, try to understand the user, take your early thesis MVP, a minimum viable product, to them, and see how they use that product and what feedback do they give on your early product. Don't spend too much money on building the MVP. Build it lean, keep it lean, and take it to the user, and then iterate from there. That the problem that you identified was right or wrong, the solution that you have developed is worth using for your users or not. So identifying a niche is always easier, rather than building for the masses. I'll always suggest start with a niche and then grow that niche forward, and that's the best way to build 0 to 1 organizations.
Okay. Okay, we have a question in the chat box.
Yeah.
How difficult or easy was it for you to choose entrepreneurship over your second or third best skills? Yeah, I think you can take that question.
Yeah, like for example, what would you have been if not the founder of an edtech startup? Great. I think it's a great question, Yash. I mean, got me thinking. Um, See, entrepreneurship is not my first skill, actually. To be honest, entrepreneurship is a skill that I've learned by accident. I don't belong to a business family. My education system never taught me entrepreneurial skills. Honestly, today's education system still talks about a curriculum in entrepreneurship, business. There are entrepreneurial competitions for teenagers and younger kids. So there's a lot of advancement happening. But in my time, education was straitjacketed. Science, math, tuitions, number, IIT, JEE, etc. There was nothing about entrepreneurship. So actually, entrepreneurship was never my first skill. It became my first skill over 15 years, yes, for sure. But if not entrepreneurship, today I would have been an educator. For sure, because I'm a teacher at heart. I love interacting with kids. I love the classroom. Now, if I had to make a choice today, I'll definitely not teach math, physics, chemistry as I used to teach in past in a coaching institution. While I love those subjects, I love physics and chemistry a lot. But today, I would become a life coach, if not an entrepreneur. I think over the 15 years of experimentation with my own self, looking at millions of users, teenagers across the world, mentoring a lot of them across many countries, I have figured out certain frameworks in my own head, and even documented frameworks that can help a teenager, a 8-year-old, 10-year-old take better decisions, stay curious, stay on top of their creative intelligence, and make better life decisions. So if not an entrepreneur, I'll definitely become a life coach. Without the certification of being a life coach, I think I'm decently good at it. And to your question, I think the answer is not complete there. Sorry, Sachika. How so that is my main skill. How easy it is to choose entrepreneurship over your second and third best skill? I think that decision is very simple. If imagine me as a life coach today, how many teenagers can I impact? I think 100, 200 in a month at max. If I'm taking mass sessions, which really don't work in life coaching, then also 1,000, 2,000 teenagers in a month. But there are millions to be impacted. And if entrepreneurs are thinking about scale, if you're thinking that I want to take what I know to millions of users in coming years of my life, I want to make big impact, then entrepreneurship is an obvious choice. And if you say no, I don't want all the chaos of being an entrepreneur, all the risk of being an entrepreneur. I'm a great life coach or an artist or a YouTuber or a techie, blah blah blah. Then you stick to your best skill and become shine in your individual brilliance without being an entrepreneur, which is absolutely okay. I mean, today in creator economy, creators are earning more than entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurship is the worst way to earn money, by the way, right? So while people feel unicorns and all the startup entrepreneurs earn a lot, but very few entrepreneurs end up earning more than $1 million in life. So it's not the easiest way to earn money. If you want to make impact at scale, choose entrepreneurship over everything else.
Just before we come to Nishit's question, you mentioned in your presentation about high value ecosystems. And I think having the right team is very important. So could you elaborate on the importance of hiring, especially in startups?
I mean, it's all about humans, right? We're talking about human potential and how more than any other potential, this potential is what matters. Because all goodness, all spark is really stored in humans. And I feel to build a great organization, it's all about humans. I mean, every organization by default is a people's organization until unless you are building a product that is just being coded by you. But again, some people will be using it. So by default, every organization becomes a people's organization. So people are super important. Building teams, great teams is super important. I think 2, 3 core learnings for me while building a team has been choose your early team, the co-founding team, very, very carefully. I mean, the co-founding team should be absolutely mission driven. That's very important. If you're building a missionary organization, many organizations are not mission driven, and that's absolutely fine. There are different kind of startups and organizations. But if your organization is mission driven, then the co-founding team has to be insanely mission driven, because building mission driven organizations, startups, is the hardest. So you face the maximum hurdles over a period of time. You fail the max, people don't believe in you. Sometimes funding becomes a success, sometimes funding fails, products succeed, products fail, users don't use it as much as you predicted. So it's an uncertain, uncharted territory. So you really need people, at least the core set, to be standing by your side and saying, boss, we will stand by the mission. We can change the product, we can change the business model, but the mission remains. So you need a co-founding team right from the beginning that believes in the mission together. That's first. Second, beyond the co-founding team, you need to hire people smarter than you. I know sounds very cool, sounds obvious, but it is the toughest. Hiring people smarter than you in an early stage startup is difficult, because people who are smarter than you are also thinking of starting their own ventures today, right? So it's really hard, and that's where again mission comes in. I realized that people sometimes get attracted to the power of mission, and great missions attract great minds. So great missions, great visions, that is where things start. For young entrepreneurs, sometimes I feel people jump into building a startup too soon before really bringing that sense of purpose, asking the why question very, very strongly. So first is, of course, finding the right co-founding team. Second is hiring people smarter than you. Third is building a culture that is, and this is very important. And I'll quote the person as well from whom I've learned this. Just met him a week back, and he said that in an organization there should be no hierarchy of people. There should be hierarchy of ideas. So that is super important in building a people-driven organization. Hierarchy of people, because I'm a founder and CEO. If people start just following my authority, I am the limitation on this startup, and it is just bound to fail, right? It should be hierarchy of ideas. Great ideas can come from anyone, and once those ideas are coming in, we should have a framework of picking and choosing the most brilliant ideas, and the entire team backing the most brilliant ideas. I heard this from none other than Mr. Narayan Murthy, founder and chairman of Infosys. Last week, I was in an event where he was there as well, and I think 1.5 hour of his conversation with Mr. Mohandas Pai was, interestingly, one of the best conversations I have attended in the last 20 years. Because these guys are just phenomenal. Mr. Narayan Murthy started Infosys in 81. 81, can you guys imagine? I wasn't born in 81. Forget about you guys. So he started a company, he scaled it up, listed in Indian Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, and what Infosys could do for the Indian ecosystem globally. So this came from him. So hierarchy of ideas, not hierarchy of people. So yeah.
Big fan of that idea, and obviously a big fan of Narayan Murthy, sir, like
Absolutely.
exceptional leader.
He is outstanding.
True.
Brilliant. Yeah.
I think we can take Nishit's question here. It's related to your time at Vedantu. Users, students, and especially parents want the education framework of, say, a platform to be more catered to them as individuals. So, how did you keep this in mind while scaling Vedantu?
Brilliant question, Nishit. I think super important. I think personalized. We are talking about personalization here, right? Keeping every learner at the center of any education framework that you build. And for me, whether it was in a classroom full of 100 teenagers learning from me as a teacher, or building a platform for a teacher to teach online, personalization has remained at the core of every framework that I have built personally, or I've been part of building it with my co-founders or with my team at Vedantu and Laksh in past, or at UABL right now. So the idea was, how do you, because it's all one size fits curriculum, right? For a teacher, the biggest problem in a classroom is, for example, if I'm teaching atomic structure to a class full of 100 11 graders, now I'm going through at one speed, right? How do you match the speed that a teacher is teaching with 100 different speeds in a classroom? I think that's the core problem of even standard conventional education delivery, right? And every teacher struggles. Teachers like us who can think of tech, who can think of frameworks to improve teaching learning through tech, had the responsibility to improve it. So we built out a framework where real time we used to give feedback in online teaching to every teacher of students' engagement in learning, real time, not after the class. Because if I give that feedback after the class, it is already too late for many learners in the classroom, right? So I think real-time feedback, synchronous feedback to a teacher while teaching online is a framework how we kept personalization intact. So even if a teacher was teaching 1,000 learners in a classroom, she was getting data points of various clusters, which cluster is lagging behind, which cluster is doing well, which cluster is able to answer, so that the teacher or group of teachers can cater to those clusters in breakout rooms, etc., and make the class, even a classroom of 1,000 people, super personalized. It cannot be as personalized as one-on-one, but quite decently personalized, honestly, that way.
Yeah, I think that was a great response to Nishit's question. Tanish's question in the chat box.
Yeah.
Do you think success in the edtech sector is more because of the society, or is it because the edtech sector is more product oriented? He writes, for example, in India's case, where the education sector is probably the largest in the world, and at the same time, India seems to have the most straightforward conservative educational system.
Tanish, do you want me to not go for hours today? I've already bored you guys enough. So I think this is a beautiful question, right? I think so far, see how now for those of you who are interested in education, and guys, I'll be available. I'll share my email ID as well. Any one of you who wants to work for UABL or connect with me personally on education at tech or tech in general, feel free. I think anyone thinking about education, be it social sector, be it tech sector, consumer sector, whatever it is, or schools, whatever it is, we need to understand this. Conservatism in education sector is a 100-year-old concept. I mean, Britishers brought it in, Persians brought it in. The conveyor belt education system that we talk about, one size fits all. Everybody should go to first grade, second grade, third grade. Everybody should sit down in a class, study maths right now. How is that possible? I mean, how so many different individuals can study the same topic of math in the same time zone? It's just impossible. That's the worst way of learning skills. Rather, the skills that education system is teaching today are not needed in future, right? I mean, how many of you really use the long form division method after you graduated from school? Or how many of us have used indefinite integration? Engineering needs it, but in entrepreneurship life for 15 years, I have never used those concepts at all. What I realized, whenever somebody faces a real world project, whatever is needed to do that project, people can pick it up then and there. After building basic literary and numeric skills, basic numeracy literacy is definitely needed, but beyond that, it should be all project driven. Even for an 8-year-old, learning should be project driven. So clearly, not just Indian education system, to Tanish's question, US education system is struggling with conservatism today. There's a lot of voice. You guys should read up what Sir Ken Robinson used to say about the education system at large, both in UK, US, Europe, globally. What somebody like Richard Taylor Gatto, one of the most strongest voices who passed away 2 years back, his books, a couple of his books, one of his books is titled Dumbing Us Down, where he calls education system as weapons of mass instruction, on the lines of weapons of mass destruction. I mean, those voices, I still tone it down, but these people have not toned it down what education system is really doing. So Tanish, I completely agree. Rather, the success of education sector, edtech sector so far has been because of the insecurities that has been developed in our society, not because of deep innovation. I'm not saying deep innovation hasn't happened. I have built an organization which is super innovative. I'm super proud of what I did in Vedantu. But uh, because parents were insecure about marks, ranks, and grades, that's why tuitions flourished. Because parents and kids were insecure about getting ranks, that's why coaching institutions flourished. Because our society is so competitive, that's why the system of exams is still existent. And any company that comes and says they will improve our marks by 1%, 2%, improve our ranks, can their products can be sold by a sales scholar very easily to anyone. While it's a much needed system, coaching institutions, but are they really reforming education? Sorry to say no, because reform in education system is a very different discussion altogether, right? So first stage of education was what Britishers got to India, the factory system that we have all been part of, struggled a lot with. Somehow figured our ways through. We have done decently well, but we have suffered because of it as well, and we will realize it over coming years as well. Second phase was bringing everything that is happening offline to online, which is education 2.0, right? According to me, education 1.0 was everything offline. Education 2.0 is whatever was offline, bringing it online. Education 3.0 is, and no pun intended there, it's not aligned to web 3.0 at all. Education 3.0 is where we'll use tech, we'll use global ecosystems to really reimagine how schools of the future, how education of the future should look like. And that is what is the need of the hour right now. And as far as I know, very few entrepreneurs, very few organizations globally are doing that work right now. It's a struggle. I am doing it. I'm one of them. It's a huge struggle. It's not easy to build such a product, but it's a beautiful challenge to take up. So yeah, Tanishk, I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, I think wonderfully summed up. So if you have the time, could we go
Yeah.
forward with Satvik's
Go ahead,
question?
go ahead. I have the time. Yeah.
So you mentioned about, he writes, you said that you faced a difficult situation while entering into the startup space. You even had little support from your family. Such a situation must have made you question yourself whether this is going to be worth all the efforts. So how should one deal with such an emotional overwhelm? And was there any particular incident in your life that made you believe in your ideology?
See, I told you I should become life coach, right, Sachika? So I know in any conversation, this is interesting, Satvik. Thanks a lot for bringing these questions so frankly. I think being vulnerable is super important. Whatever there is, we should really accept it, throw it out. That's super important for all of you. All of you have great aspirations, these things that you want to achieve, these sometimes just random notions of who you are, right? And we want to give it some expression. At least we want to fight for it, right? But there are parents, then there is a peer pressure, then there is society, then there is a mass conception of who we should be that overwhelms, right? You have clearly used the word emotional overwhelm, Satvik, and it is an emotional overwhelm, right? Because I think at the core it is about us. We don't love ourselves enough. That has been my learning. We should believe in ourselves the most and not really seek validation from others. This one line, and second line, we should not compare ourselves to anyone else. I think two big takeaways for me is don't seek external validation. Don't compare yourself to anybody else. These are two biggest truths of my life. These are the things that lead to maximum emotional overwhelm, according to me, because we seek validation from parents, that's why we listen to them. Because we seek validation from our peers, that's why we listen to them. We seek validation on our Instagram account, that's why we listen to our Instagram followers. Sometimes I seek validation to my LinkedIn followers, and then I realize what shit I was doing. I don't need that, right? So I think believing in yourself, loving yourself for who you are, it's super important. You might make mistakes. Everyone commits thousands of mistakes in their life. That's all right. Being okay with failure is the third point. So I think that is what led me beyond my parents' objection, beyond my peers' objection. I mean, you guys don't even know, I started my life as a tutor in Barnala. I mean, starting Lux in Patiala with a 1-2 crore revenue in the very first year still sounds like a great start. I started teaching children of my factory workers as a tutor. That was my first attempt at entrepreneurship, more like a self-employment, which was a struggle. Just 5 or 6 kids came to learn from me, and I thought maybe 50, 60, 100 of them will come. But because I taught 5 or 6 of them, I realized I'm decently good at teaching. One step led to the other. So what really took me through all the tough phases in my life, and there have been 3 4 really tough phases, insanely tough, I think, was belief in my own ideals. And reducing sense of seeking validation. Yeah, and that's what I'll suggest all of you guys, because your generation sometimes is worse in it, seeking validation from peers and from social media. Don't do that. It's a trap.
I think that was a very important point, all the more to people of my generation.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
Taking up Shubham's question, his question is inclined more towards life in general. He writes, if someone wants to reach their true potential, but despite their honest and sincere efforts, they're not able to do so, where are they lacking as per your experience, and what can they do differently?
Hmm. Yeah, again, very linked question, Shubham, to the concept of ikigai that we talked about, human potential that we have talked about. I think reaching your true potential, it's of course it's not easy, because defining what our true potential is itself where people commit the error. Let me break it down for you. Again, following the first principles thinking here. I think we all have passions, right? We all have some passions, be it art, cooking, content creation, engineering, coding, gaming, dancing. It could be anything, teaching. Now, passion combined with good skills is something that we are looking for. And if you can find this combination and then try to convert this combination, passion plus skills, into your professional pathway, is a good way of fulfilling your own potential, right? Sometimes we confuse that whatever passion we have, we can convert that into our profession. Not really. Without skills, that's not going to happen. I think the biggest mistake people do are two. One, confusing infatuation with passion. Sometimes we are just infatuated. I mean, we are infatuated with entrepreneurship in today's world. Not everybody needs to become an entrepreneur. Rather, not everyone can become an entrepreneur. That's that's like saying that everybody should become a creator on YouTube today, because just one YouTube creator is earning $1 million, right? That's insanely wrong with human potential. So confusing infatuation with your own passion is the first mistake. That differentiate. Do you really like it? Do you really like something? Or are you just getting infatuated because somebody else is getting successful in it? Right? That's the first mistake. Second, not being able to understand your passion from your vocation. Vocation needs skills. Passion sometimes doesn't need a skill. If photography your passion is your passion, you can take your iPhone or your Android phone and click as many photos as you want. But does it ensure that you can become a great photographer? Not really. You need great skills to become a great photographer, right? So the second mistake is just ending up in a passion and telling the world I want to pursue my passion and convert that into profession, and not investing enough in your passion to build your own skills. You have to invest in your passion, guys, and that only comes with practice. We sometimes, especially again your generation, because there's so much to do, right? You guys have so many platforms, so many things to engage with, so many friends, so many social media accounts, so many things to handle. I think not practicing your passion enough is the second biggest mistake, right? I think these two are the biggest mistakes that we commit, that really stops us from really going to our true potential.
Yeah, great answer. Tanishk has another question. So, if you had to choose a founding team for a startup and each person brings only one skill to the table, what skills would you as a founder be looking for?
Interesting, Tanishq. I think a little counterintuitive answer here. While we sometimes look for complementary skills, which is great to have, but I'll still put mission alignment on top, and then this question makes sense. So with that if there are say three co-founders in a startup, uh, generally I prefer a even number of co-founders. So that's also, symmetry just works better somehow. I don't know for what strange reason. So even number of people in the founding team is far better than odd. Then all of them aligned on the mission statement is more important than the skills they bring. Third is the skills. Now, if you're building a tech startup, of course having a techie in your founding team is a given, right? So tech, business, that is marketing skills, and third, really good people skills. I think I would prefer these three. Tech and product. If you're differentiating tech and product, that somebody should be great at product, somebody should be great at tech, then you have two different, right? Somebody great at tech, somebody great at building a product, somebody great at business, and somebody great at people skills, so that the organization really builds on beautifully. I think these are four necessary skills to have in a startup. I mean, sometimes even one founder can have many of these skills in different proportions, right? And that's okay. Some founders might be solo founders. I started Uable as a solo founder. Now we are two co-founders and a co-founding team of 6 people. But then you have to take a call. If you're solo, then what is your core skill? That is how I'll start thinking about it. That if I was to start today, I'll say people skills are my core skills. I'm great at handling people, defining mission, driving, inspiring people to do great work. I would go ahead and hire somebody great at product, great at tech, great at marketing. So that is how I will take that decision, that what am I best at. Now I'll hire 3 more people who are best at their own trades. If I'm not able to get co-founders, that's fine. I'll go ahead and hire CXOs and give them equity in the company and still make the startup work.
All right. This was a question which I have thought about for like very long. What is the importance of guidance and having mentors in your life? And if in your personal or on a professional level, who has been the mentor to you?
Interesting. I think having mentors, coaches is super important. But for me, interestingly, many of my friends in the startup ecosystem say that they have had fixed mentors for a long period of time. But for me, I have seeked out different kind of mentoring and coaching at different stages of my life because I have changed a lot over the last 15 years, right? For a mentor also to keep up with the way I am changing, it's hard, right? So at different stages, finding different mentors has been important for me. I feel having mentor is important. I mean, but who is your mentor? Mentor doesn't need to be somebody who comes for 1 hour live session and gives you gyan for 1 hour, right? No, not really. Mentors could be, I mean, I know it sounds very, very strange, but mentors could be books as well. Sometimes philosophers ask you the right questions, gives you the right framework that you keep referring to again and again. For me, 2 or 3 books, 2 or 3 philosophers over the years have been the best mentors because I don't read 100 books a year. I'm not that avid a reader. Can't handle these many books. Can't read very thick books as well. Strangely, but there are 4 or 5 books in my life that I keep going back to every second or third year in my life. That those books, the kind of questions they asked me, they opened my eyes. I thought I've got that knowledge now. Then I started my journey again with those questions. I journal a lot. I reflect a lot. Then after a year, I pick up that book again. And then I realized not really. I had not understood that book completely. So I go back and reiterate on my ways. So these books, these philosophers have been the best mentors for me because otherwise for advice, for general mentoring, I have had the ecosystem. I go to my investors, I go to my fellow entrepreneurs a lot, but then I pick and choose. Then picking the right advisor at that stage is critical. For example, what advice are you seeking out? Are you going to a person who has been through similar challenges before? Or else that person giving you advice or helping you reflect can be a blasphemy, right? Somebody who has not seen those phases in life can help you reflect and all, but cannot give you the right advice. So I think there are 2 parts. So learning from books, following certain frameworks in life, and getting mentored continuously by yourself, and then picking up advisors in life. For example, if you're in first year thinking about entrepreneurship, a better person to go to will be somebody who has started entrepreneurship in first year, right? So I think dividing mentoring, coaching, and short-term advices is also super critical.
Right. Maitre is asked about whether you could share the name of those books.
All right, I can. And I can take one last question. I think we are running over time. I have another session, but of course I can. Some of the books that come to my mind right away, some recommendations, of course, 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel for any aspiring entrepreneur, given it's a Bible for 0 to 1 engineering. Second, if you guys are into philosophy, I think any book by Naval Ravikant would be awesome. His Almanac is a great read. He's one of the wisest persons alive, according to me, in the world right now. And following some of his learnings is super awesome. And you need to reread them, read them again, read them in multiple phases of your life. We think we have read a book and we have become wiser. That's the biggest misconception at the end of reading a book. We haven't. We have just got some knowledge, but we have not really absorbed it right now. It takes years. Third, any book by Krishnamurti. I don't know if you have heard about Jiddu Krishnamurti. He was an Indian philosopher, an educator. There's a book by him called Think on These Things. I think super important. So Naval Ravikant, Krishnamurti, Peter Thiel. What else? I like one book called Daily Hero Manifesto by Robin Sharma. While I was not a big fan of Robin Sharma before, but he has written a new book called Daily Hero Manifesto, which is just a great book. He gives you good frameworks to really enhance your own performance through reflection, through journaling, etc. I think that's a beautiful book. And and for anybody who's starting a startup, I think Lean Startup is again a great read. So yeah, these are 5 recommendations right now. I have a very interesting post running on LinkedIn where I started the same discussion a week back. So you guys might want to check it out. Where I said if there was a book that you want to reread 3 or 4 times in life, what will that book be? And many people have suggested a lot of great books on that thread. So go ahead and check it out.
Yeah, I think I went through that thread too, and there were a lot of great suggestions there.
But again, my recommendation: pick up less books, invest more time with those books over a period of time rather than reading too many books. That will not help.
And also the process of iteration that you mentioned about taking a book or any idea for that example, and I mean you keep evolving, so your idea about it keeps changing. So I think that was a very good point too. If we have any more questions from the audience, I think one last question. Anyone? Okay, I think then we can wrap it up.
Awesome.
I think great session, like so insightful. There were so many. My favorite thing was definitely about finding your ikigai, having the high value ecosystems, finding the right team. Also about this point of iteration. I would really like to thank you, sir, for taking your time out for this session. It truly was an absolute delight to host you. And obviously, I would like to thank the audience for joining us. And before we wrap this up, I would be grateful if the audience could fill out the feedback form for this event. The link will be shared shortly in the chat box. If any of my batches from Embryo could share the link, I would request you to fill that out. And the recording and the synopsis for this talk will also be shared soon. Bits Embryo strives to organize more of these talks going ahead, and we hope that we have a similar response. Thank you all for your
Thanks a lot.
time.
Thanks a lot, Sachika. I think it was great being here. I think a session is as good as the audience, not the speaker. So getting great questions from all of you was phenomenal. Yeah. And just one last thing I wanted to add: if anybody wants to join me, anybody wants to intern with me, apprentice with me, my mail ID is right here. You can share it with the entire group,
Sure,
Sachika,
sure.
afterwards as well. Saurabh@uable.com. Hit me up on LinkedIn or on my mail ID. Any advice that you need apart from the session as well, or anything that you want to do, I'll be available. Thanks a
Sure.
lot.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, everyone,
See
and have
everyone.
a
Sachika,
wonderful
thank you.
evening.
Bye.
Bye bye. Have a wonderful evening ahead, everyone.
Same to you. Bye.